All right, let's start.
All right.
Ryan, thanks for having me at your house, man.
Of course.
And thanks for
coming
being
over.
part of the podcast.
Yeah, Remy's going to be
And
part of
you
the
too.
podcast as
Thanks
well.
for being part of this. Man, how you been?
I've been good. Good. Busy. Wife and kid are gone for a couple of weeks, and just been chilling at the house.
Yeah, you're going through the phase that I was there maybe 3 years ago, and then again a year ago.
Yeah,
Then.
and recently too.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We were just talking about how scary it is when kids learn to eat.
Dude, it's scary and everything.
It's that always worried that he's going to choke.
Yeah.
But he doesn't, which is great.
Did you go through the phase where you wake up in the middle of the night, even if he's sleeping, you go there to check if he's good?
I had a couple of nights where like I would wake up in the middle of the night, and when we sleep with we have the baby monitor just in between us,
Yeah.
and so I would just pick it up and like I zoom in really close to make sure I can see like like his blanket or whatever, like
Going up and
move
down.
up and down. I'm like, okay, he's good.
Dude, there was a period, I think was like 3 to 4 times a week.
Uh-huh.
I would just wake up.
You'd go in
wake
there?
up because he wake up, but
Yeah.
then when he didn't wake up, I'll go there and like check on him, like
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah,
in the
put your
nose.
finger under his
And I'm
nose.
like, oh yeah, he's fine. It's crazy how we just become so scared of everything.
I googled a lot, like when when can you stop worrying about SIDS, the sudden infant death syndrome, where they
Yeah.
just like die for no reason.
Yeah.
And they were like, online it was like after about 6 months, I think it was like 95% of cases or something happen before 6 months. After a year you can really stop worrying about it,
Right.
but like after 6 months you're basically in the clear.
Yeah.
And I remember he was 6 months old when I googled that, and I was like, oh thank God,
I think
like we're past that one.
it's crazy how many worries we
Dude,
have.
you're just always worrying.
Always.
Even when they're in New York right now, and she called me an hour ago when we were, he's napping. I'm like, he's okay, he's eating good. He's like,
Yeah.
just like worried about everything.
And then you like miss him, and
Yeah,
there's all these things.
totally.
Like it feels weird. You know what's my biggest fear all the time is like forgetting him somewhere.
Oh,
like when we go to the grocery store.
I don't know that I don't really
don't-
worry about that right now, but
Yeah.
like maybe it'll become a worry. I don't know that I'll like I'm so worried about him when he's with me. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know that I'll ever be able to like forget him.
I don't think I ever will, but I saw a video of a guy that forgot one time.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me. And
I saw it on a TV show where the heck is up there? Oh, printer's
Printer.
going.
there.
I don't
You're
know.
listening.
Yeah. The FBI. I saw a TV show one time where like a doctor like forgot to drop his kid off at school because they were in the back seat and just ran into the hospital, and I was like, just forgot their kid was in the back seat.
Yeah, that's wild.
And it's like, fuck, man.
Yeah.
That would
I don't think that would
crazy.
ever happen to me, but I'm always scared of that.
Yeah.
I think I've had dreams of it. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
where like we have to like rush back to get him. I've had
Oh
dreams of
my
it.
God.
It's crazy.
And but you have an older one now too.
Yeah, he's 3, and we have to say to him, he's 3.5. You cannot say he's 3
Okay.
because he's like, no, I'm 3.5.
Okay.
I used to be a little kid. Now I'm 3.5.
I'm a big boy now.
Yeah. He's like, he's like, Dad, when I was like little, I didn't eat like that, huh? And I'm like, nah.
Yeah, he did. Everybody.
Yeah, you did. But like, you're still little. I can never say
What's that like having a 3-year-old or 3.5-year-old? Sorry.
He's at 3.5.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part was like, not hard. He was just adapting between like late 2s and like early 3s. I think he started figuring it out what he liked, what he didn't like. I don't like doing this. I like doing that. And all of a sudden, he doesn't know how to deal with his emotions. So everything is like, or like, cool. It's like highs, lows, lows.
Yeah.
So it was kind of hard to like, the tantrums that like throw.
You have to like teach them how to regulate their emotions a little bit.
So it was learning for me too. It's like I never knew how to regulate my emotions.
Yeah.
So I was like, sit down with him, eye
Yeah.
level, talk to him. How you feeling? Blah
Yeah.
blah. Should we talk now? Should we talk later?
Yeah.
And like be like respectful but strict. It's like now he's past that phase.
Yeah.
Now he's like super, Dad, how can I help?
Oh, that's great.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Look what I did. I want to eat with the fork that you eat with the same fork.
Man.
It's like yesterday we were cutting plants outside. He's like, I want to do it. Let me help. I will sweep. So like,
That's awesome.
it was a short period in
Yeah.
the like early 3s.
Yeah.
That he was a bit like like I think he was dealing with like didn't know how to
Yeah.
deal with him. Like his memories too started becoming better. Like he remembers that he likes this park. He remembers that he likes this food. You know, where before I'm sure like now it's like you pick him up, you put him there.
Yeah,
He doesn't
they
remember that
don't.
he was playing with his toy
No.
right here.
Yeah, absolutely
You know,
not. Yeah.
like now it's like no, I gotta go get my toy to take it with me.
Wow.
So
You
it's
speak
wild.
Portuguese to him?
It's all Portuguese.
It's all Portuguese.
Yeah.
English too, obviously. Like he knows English too. Or
So he's just learning English.
just-
And I
okay.
just found out yesterday that he's like totally fluent because it's spring break now. Because he's finally in school. We put him to like preschool.
Mhm.
When he turned 3, we put him into preschool. And then it's wild because every friend of his was basically son of a friend of mine. Now in school, he has friends that he chose.
Yeah, his own friends.
Yeah, it's like he chose that friend.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, they
yeah.
somehow connected.
Yeah, yeah.
And this kid called Ethan, his parents are like not from Korea, but their family is from Korea. And we had a play date yesterday,
Okay.
and it was awesome. Like just to see him and his best friend kind of play.
Yeah.
But he's also in.
What
the
were they
spirit-
doing?
They were just building a bunch of stuff for like big bricks.
That's
We went
cool.
to this park with this big bricks, and they built this like house.
Nice.
And they had like cards when
You see like their imagination going and stuff.
and that's the first time I had to just kind of see him like be his own.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And I'd never because he doesn't speak English to us. He speaks like some phrases.
Okay.
Sometimes I could see his brain goes like
Uh-huh.
to English, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And then sometimes, but I pretend that I don't understand English
Oh, to make him speak Portuguese?
to make him speak Portuguese at home, because my wife doesn't speak English completely.
Oh, really?
She's learning. She's
Okay.
very basic.
Okay.
So yesterday I was watching him the whole time with his kid because I was like, I wonder how much English he actually knows, or if he's just
Way more than you think he knows.
way more.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
complete. Like he puts
course.
sentences together. Like
Of course.
I never taught him one thing in English.
No, but they're
in
so
school either.
like when they're so young, like they pick it up and it's all around him.
Yeah.
It's like you have to force Portuguese on him, and if you didn't, he wouldn't know how to speak Portuguese. But English, you don't have to force it on him because literally every other person around him is speaking English. When you go to the store, when you go to the mall, when you go to like everyone's speaking English. The people he's hearing, the TV shows, like it's all English. So he probably pick it up, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, and now I switched his cartoons that sometimes you watch to Portuguese because it was like you're saying, it was the only source of Portuguese was me and Bruna.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, he's gonna lose it because I could see him losing a little bit.
Yeah.
He even changed his accent now in
Sure,
Portuguese.
yeah.
You know, so it's like, and I think at one point we're probably gonna have to like sit down and learn and teach him like grammar in Portuguese because he's not gonna know how to like write in Portuguese. You know? So it's a weird concept that I didn't anticipate.
It's so good for them though.
It's
to
really
have the dual language. We have a part-time nanny that comes and she speaks Spanish to him, to Elliot, and it's just I love it so much because I'm like I want him to.
Yeah.
It's also Elliot I've told you this, he has a rare disease and it comes with like speech delays and learning developmental issues, and so that's one of the big things we worry about with him is being able to develop his speech in a way that's like on pace with his peers.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's learning multiple things like that, like Spanish, English, you know, right now it's just about babbling, but getting exposure to all of that, like, it just helps with that neuroplasticity of like the brain, and it's just so important. Yeah. And
the disease is like lactose.
It's called galactosemia, super rare disease, affects 1 in 50,000. So about 70 to 80 kids will be born with it this year. And about every year, about 70 to 80 kids are born.
That's super rare.
Super rare. It's literally defined as an ultra rare disease. In the National Organization of Rare Diseases, they define it as an ultra rare disease. And basically, so in your body and in my body, when we drink milk or eat something with butter or any type of dairy, it has something called galactose, and most people know lactose because there's lactose intolerance and stuff like that. Galactose is one of the biggest elements of lactose, and galactose gets processed through your body. Your metabolism processes it into sugar, into glucose. Like that,
Mm.
you know, that's how galactose becomes energy for you to use. And your body does that through a process in the metabolism. It goes through 3 enzymes: the Galk enzyme, the Galt enzyme, and the Gale enzyme. And so it passes through those 3 stages, and each time it changes into a different chemical until it becomes like energy for your body to use.
Mm.
His body does not, his Galt enzyme does not function at all. And so he has genetic mutations that basically tell his Galt enzyme to do the wrong thing. And so instead of turning into the right chemical, once it gets to the second stage, the Galt stage, his galactose turns into 2 things. One is called galactitol, and one is called galactose 1-phosphate. And both of those are really dangerous for your body if they build up. And so when they're newborns, it can cause, it would, if they, like when they breastfeed, it causes liver failure, and then it causes death. So babies die. If they don't catch galactosemia, usually within like the first week or 2 weeks, you'll see a baby get really jaundice. They'll go into liver failure. They'll be really, really, just won't have any movement or energy at all.
Wow.
And then they'll die.
Even from breast milk.
Specifically from breast milk, because breast milk is, it's milk. It's
Right.
got a very, very large, it's made up of galactose. Like that's one of the biggest things it's made up of. And yeah, so for his, you know, his first few days, and the thing is, I mean, you've got 2 kids, you know, like when your baby starts going through something, for us it was like we saw him be jaundiced, but the pediatrician was like, yeah, but a lot of kids are jaundiced when they come out.
Right.
Like a lot of kids are just yellow, and like it
Yeah, my kid
clears
was
up
yellow for a long time.
totally clear, and that's what we heard. And then lethargy is another one, and it's like, yeah, but a lot of kids are lethargic. Like they just came out of the womb, they're 4 days old, they're lethargic. Of course they are. They don't know what they're doing. They're just like, of course they're lethargic. So these symptoms that you see with galactosemia can often be just symptoms that newborns have,
Right.
which makes it really, really hard to catch until it's too late. And so it is on, now it's on the newborn screening test. You know, when you have a baby, you get a heel prick test, and they test them for a wide range of things that can be dangerous. And starting about 15 years ago, it was in all states, it was confirmed that it would be on the newborn test, galactosemia would be. And so now when you have a baby, they test the blood for galactosemia. And so basically they do like a low threshold test for if it's possible. They probably like, they basically like lower the threshold of what they like, what the normal like confirmation of a disease would be for the newborn screening, because they want to catch everything.
Yeah.
And so we got the call 4 days after he was born that he tested positive for galactosemia. But because it is so rare, a lot of times, and this is something we've just found out happens, and it's not a good thing, but like the doctor told us, like, it's probably a false positive. They were like, we get a lot of false positives.
Because it's just an ultra rare thing.
Just because it's ultra rare, they were saying like it's more likely that it's a false positive than it is that he actually has it. And that's actually, looking back, that's really, really dangerous, because what women are told before they have a baby is that breast is best. Breastfeeding is the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do for your child is breastfeed. You hear it over and over and over and over, and it hammers this idea into the mom's mind that they have to breastfeed their child.
Yeah.
And it will create a connection with their child that they won't get if they don't breastfeed their child. Right. And so what that resulted in for us was the doctor saying, well, it's probably a false positive. You're not really seeing, you're just seeing jaundice and lethargy, and that happens in other babies too. So like, it's probably false positive. You can keep breastfeeding him if you want to.
Oh my God.
And my wife is going, of course I want to.
Yeah.
I've been told for 10 months straight that I need to breastfeed my child. Of course I'm going to breastfeed my child if I can. I'm going to do everything I can to push for breastfeeding my child.
Right.
So she continues to breastfeed, and we don't know this at the time, but we're poisoning our kid.
Right.
Like, you're essentially giving your kid a poison. You are
the exact same thing that he cannot have.
giving him the thing that could kill him.
Right.
And day 9, we took his blood, and they sent it off to the Mayo Clinic. And day 9, it came back, confirmed that he had galactosemia. And the wave of regret and guilt that you feel as a parent, and this is across, I can speak about this because I've talked to so many parents now. The galactosemia community is so tight because it's so small and you all go through this similar thing, that everybody talks to each other. This is consistent across the galactosemia community of the wave of guilt that you feel that you breastfed your kid.
Right.
And you made them sicker, or you made them worse, or you possibly like pushed them into that further galactosemia state, and or not state, but like you made it worse. Basically, you gave them poison. That it's just something. It's really, really hard to deal with, and you're dealing with that at the same time. You're reeling from a confirmation that your kid has this ultra rare disease that you know nothing about, that you have heard comes with speech delays and motor skill delays and educational delays, and you're being told he can never have dairy in his entire life, and you're being told that like he's probably going to be behind his peers in reading and speech, and it's just a lot to go through when
and you're a new parent
and you're a new parent. You've never done this before.
Yeah.
So now I'm also just trying to wake up every 2 hours to feed him and keep him alive, and he's crying and you don't know why he's crying, and he's gassy but you can't relieve the gas, and
all the issues that like
all the issues that every new parent goes through,
plus
right. My wife hard. Is trying to figure out if she should donate her breast milk or stop breastfeeding, but every time she thinks about it she gets so emotional.
Yeah, of course.
It's just like,
and then the emotions that the women go through that first few months,
their hormones are all over the place.
Yeah,
it's which is very normal.
Very normal.
Very normal. They had this. They went through this trauma of, you know, delivering a baby, whether it was C-section or vaginal, and it's like no matter what, you went through this huge thing, and so it's just like a roller coaster. So
yeah,
August and September and October last year for us was just like
it's not easy.
It was not easy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And looking back, you know, he's 8 months old now, and he's been on formula for 8 months, and you know he's been doing great. You know, the formula these days, he's on soy formula, and you know, because he can't have the milk-based formula. It's fortified with like all the things that they need. So it's like it's exactly what they need. We've kind of jumped into the community of galactosemia, and there's a Facebook group that's very active. There's a foundation called the Galactosemia Foundation that I'm pretty involved in, and it's this area of the world that like I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
And now I'm so deep in it, and because I'm the type of person that like when I start something I get obsessed with it. And so when I found out that like he had galactosemia, I just like dove in my whole entire body into the ocean of water, just like consume me with all of the information. And there's 3 or 4 doctors in the US who really have done a lot of research in it.
Oh wow.
That's it. Like just those. Shit. And so it's like Dr. Judy at Emory University, or Dr. Judy Friedrich Kyle. I call her Dr. Judy. She's at Emory University. She's a close contact of mine now. Dr. Barry, Jared Barry, he's at Boston's Children's Medical Center, but he's like one of the head guys at Harvard too. So Harvard Medical Center and Boston Children's, and he's like the guy, and he's the guy that's been studying galactosemia for like 30, 40 years. I mean, he would tell you himself, he's an older gentleman. He's very aged, but he's the smartest guy I've ever met in my entire life. There's Dr. Kent Lai over at University of Utah. And out in the entire United States, those are the 3 that really lead and study research. There's a few others as well that like, you know, are metabolic specialists, or like we have a geneticist now for Elliot at UCLA at his medical center. But that geneticist deals with all the things that come through UCLA that are genetic diseases. He is not specialized in galactosemia. There are like Dr. Judy does rat models. She has a rat collection of rats that she has given galactosemia basically, and they study their tissues, and they study the control groups and the science behind it, and if you give them, you know, a galactose milk for this long, what does it do, and if you don't, you know, what are the effects, and You're basically like looking at galactitol levels and galactose 1 phosphate levels in the bloodstream, and like what are those levels, and do they correlate to more or less delays and developmental issues. And the hard thing is, one, we just don't know a lot about it still. There's still so much we don't know a lot about it. And the way that it presents itself is so varied among kids. It's not like you have this disease, you have diabetes, and that results in your blood sugar doing this, which results in this, and so to fix it, you do this. It's not like that at all. It's not. It's, in some kids, galactosemia presents itself in a way that's like they have speech apraxia, which means they can't say what they're thinking. They can think of they want to say, but they can't actually say it. They don't know how. They can't put it into words. And that develops into a really, really large speech struggle throughout the years of going through school and all that you can imagine, which then dominoes into reading and math and all of that kind of stuff. And memory, memory is a big one. I was talking to a mom the other day who was like, she just doesn't remember anything. But at the same time, her sister, who also has galactosemia, doesn't have speech issues, doesn't have memory issues.
You're just
basically a normal education path, a normal developmental path. Can't have dairy,
right?
But it presents itself in kids and people in such different ways.
So you've met a bunch of adults with it.
I've met a handful of adults with it. I talked to Jamie Hegel, who he's a mid-20s. Talked to him last week. He's mid-20s, and he is the race director for the GLOW race, which is a 5K race that's done through the Galactosemia Foundation. If anybody wants to donate, glowforgalactosemia.org. Look up Elliot's crew. We've got a little race going in LA for that.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, we're going to do a 5K at the park over here in like 2 or 3 weeks. You're welcome to join.
Oh, I'll join. Yeah, it'll be awesome.
Yeah, so we're going to but yeah, I talked to him, and he's a science teacher in Virginia, and he's awesome. He's dealt with it his whole life, he's had to grow up, he hasn't been able to have dairy, and he developed seizures, and a lot of people think that's a big part of it. 25% of people with galactosemia have seizures. And so he developed that in college, but he's got on some medication, and like you wouldn't know. Like his coworkers don't know if he doesn't tell them. The only way you would know with some people is that if you offer them a cupcake, they go, I can't have that. I can't have any dairy. Or a bag of Doritos, and they go, I can't have that. It has dairy in it.
When they grow up, does it get less kind of...
So that's actually a hot topic, is whether or not it's a progressive disease. That's what you call it. Is it progressive? Does it get progressively worse as time goes on? Right. Or does it get better or anything? There is data that Dr. Judy has shared with me that says it is not a progressive disease, that it does not get worse. Now that is or better. That is a contentious statement, just because I think there are people who have seen it get worse in their loved ones before, that as they've gotten older, things have gotten a little worse. Now, whether that's because when you start on a downward trajectory, it's really hard to like get back up onto an upward trajectory. It's really, really hard because, one, it's so rare that there's not a lot of data, right? If you've got 3,000 people in the entire United States that have this disease, that's not a large enough data set to get anything. Also, up until 20 years ago, it wasn't on all states' newborn screening. So the data skews in a way that there are less people that are older that have galactosemia right now, just because if you were born in the 70s or 80s or 90s and you had galactosemia, you probably just died.
Right. And
you just died. Because they didn't know. Right? So you would get a baby in the 80s, and you would have a baby, and if that baby had galactosemia, that baby would
die within 2 weeks or whatever.
They would go on breast milk probably. Their liver would fail. The doctors wouldn't, it's such a rare thing. I don't know what they're testing for, all of these things, by the time you catch it, the baby's probably dead, right?
That's wild.
And so there
They'll
were
probably give the reason of death like
liver failure
yeah.
by
We
way
don't
of
know why.
yeah, they're trying to figure out why. And that, nowadays they catch that stuff and then the baby survives, which is amazing. But that means that there's just less people that are older that have it. And those people that are older that have it, now we know, in 2025, we know that the greatest thing you can do for your child if they have galactosemia, and this really applies to any child out there, I've learned, whether they have a disease or not, the best thing you can do for your child is early intervention, meaning before the age of 3. That's why it's called early. Intervention meaning support. Intervention doesn't necessarily mean like the show Intervention where you like cut somebody
Sit
off.
down and
Yeah.
talk to 'em.
Intervention meaning give them support. So before the age of 3, giving them support in the areas which we know Elliot will struggle. So speech. So there's a program now called Babble Boot Camp, which focuses on getting children, infants, to babble more.
Mm-hmm.
He's 8 months old now. We can implement strategies to make him babble more than
Wow.
he normally would, and that will then trickle down to he'll be able to speak better. He'll have better development of speech.
Mm-hmm.
This was developed by a doctor named Nancy Potter from the Washington State University, and she has been a speech language pathologist for 40 years, and she studied galactosemia really heavily in the speech department. And she found that kids that implemented these Babble Boot Camp strategies from a very young age actually babbled more than their average peers that didn't have galactosemia. And so
Wow.
that then led them to, avoid things like developmental delays in speech.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that we can do these strategies with our kids, and that's like the number one thing. But then okay, well, how do you do speech support? You get a speech language pathologist. Well, it's expensive. What if you can't afford a speech and language pathologist? Well, you can get support through the state. And this is what we found recently. The state, basically if you have a child with any disease, whether it's Down syndrome or autism or whatever, galactosemia, you can apply for support services through the state, through your regional center. They take a look at him. They evaluate him. Elliot just went through all of this. And they say, like, okay, if he is accepted into the program or the speech services, then we'll then evaluate him on, like, what services we can give him.
Mm.
And so now they evaluate him. And the problem is that the way most regional centers evaluate kids is they have to see a delay before they will act on it.
Oh, but now he's 8 months.
He's 8 months old. You're not going to be able to see any delays.
Yeah.
But we know from the data that 83% of kids, up to 83% of kids with galactosemia have some form of a speech sound disorder. 83% of kids, most of them. There's a very few that do not develop any type of speech and sound disorders at all.
Do you know how that is compared to normal kids?
I know that, so there's one specific speech sound disorder called apraxia of speech, and that is developed in it's a wide range. It's between 40 and 63% of kids with galactosemia have apraxia of speech. In normal kids without galactosemia, it's 0.01% of kids that develop speech apraxia. So a kid with galactosemia is somewhere between 600 and 800 times more likely to develop apraxia of speech. But the state of California will not give you the service that can prevent that.
That should be automatic.
I agree, because they cannot see the delay.
But when you see the delay, it might be too late.
It is too late. What you can do about it is intervene early.
Right.
But to intervene early, you're going to have to hire a private speech and language pathologist. It's a crazy system.
Wow.
And I only know this because I sat down with, so Elliot went through his evaluations, and I asked to be in his panel review. They do the evaluations, and then they get a board together of like doctors and people and all this stuff, and the director of the regional center, and they all sit down on a Zoom meeting, and they go, okay, this person is approved, and they get this services. This person's not approved. So I asked to be there. And I was like, I want to be in my son's, which you should always advocate to be in your
that's smart.
kids' anything.
Yeah.
Anytime, I didn't know this until I talked to a really good friend of ours who is she is a doctor, who has her doctorate in special education. She was like, always advocate to be in whatever meeting for support services or anything for your kid. You are allowed to be in any of that stuff.
Wow, I had no idea.
I didn't either. And so I asked them, and they were like, absolutely, you can join. And I said, do you mind if I make a statement at the top? And so I wrote up a thing for like a little 5-minute statement about like exactly what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
and then like why, because they don't offer these services because that's the standard. That's just the standard. 18 months is the
Yeah, they're
standard.
just treating.
And it's like, well, it used to be the standard to give people lobotomies.
Right.
It used to be the standard to let people smoke on airplanes.
Yeah.
Until we had data that said, oh, that's not good.
Right.
So we should change it. And so we have data now that shows that like kids should get speech services specifically with galactosemia
Mm-hmm.
before
Automatic.
18 months.
Yeah.
Automatic, 6 months, 6 weeks, put them in.
Right.
And we haven't gotten the results yet, but we're fighting against the system right now.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
But all of that was to say that, when we talk about that data set of people who were older, back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, even if you did make it through and you lived and they found out, oh, he or she has galactosemia, let's get him off of dairy products, we'll put him on soy formula, you live. They didn't know the strategies to how best support those kids in education.
Yeah, I had no idea. No one.
Right. So the IQ levels of galactosemia patients right now are severely skewed because if you are older, 30, 40, 50, many of them have lower IQs just because they didn't have the support systems in the 80s and 90s. And so we're finding kids these days, while it's still, it's not like every kid with galactosemia is smart and doing great. It is skewed in a way that the data shows that if you're older, you are doing worse, but that's a false skew because it's not because the disease gets progressively worse as you get older.
You just never had support.
It's just you didn't have support back in the 80s and 90s. So it's like, dude, there is so much. I could go on forever about this.
It's pretty amazing that you're like super in it.
That's just like my personality is like.
Well, maybe it's a calling,
I keep thinking like this is for a reason, This is reason, like, yeah, sure. It's like there was a need for like a space to be able to talk about this more, and I really think that like I already know I've talked to some parents who are like, you've made a difference for us.
Wow.
Just in talking about it so much. And so, it's just, that feels good. And also there's going to be new parents that have, there are 80 kids a year that are born with this. And it's like, if I can create something that they can go use as a resource, or I can be a resource for them, they can reach out to me, I'm sure in the next 5-10 years there will be somebody in LA that's born with galactosemia, and if I can be here and be like, hey, come over for dinner, let's talk.
Well, not even in LA, we could build the whole platform around it, just
100%.
because maybe that's what the disease needed, somebody like you.
Yeah, it's just so rare. It's just so rare,
right?
That like, and you talk about it being rare for like government funding, right? The NIH right now is going through all of these cuts that Trump is just whatever politics, but like, he's trying to cut funding for the NIH, and that literally affects my kid's life.
Yeah,
because scary. The National Institute of Health does grants for universities and the people at the universities who are doing research for these diseases. And if you cut the research funding for those grants, the first thing that's going to get cut before anything else is a disease that only affects 3,000 people. Yeah, because if you have to choose between cancer research, diabetes research, and galactosemia research,
which you shouldn't even have to choose. Everything should be covered.
Should be funded.
Everything should be funded.
But let's lay off 4,000 people in the NIH and 3,000 people in the CDC, and then let's cut the funding for their costs. Like
right.
It's crazy.
Right.
It's crazy, and the people up there, they don't see. They don't know. They don't know that them cutting that funding had a result because Dr. Judy, this is a real life example. Dr. Judy at Emory University put together a grant application for an idea that she has around gene therapy for galactosemia and how you could possibly look at curing galactosemia. And she cannot get that grant funded because of all of the bullshit that's happening
It is fucked up.
at the NIH right now.
Yeah.
So, it's my soapbox. That's my soapbox I'm on these days is galactosemia.
I love that. I mean, I think one thing I learned having a kid is that I learned more from it than he and she, because it's two kids that I have, learn from me.
Yeah.
They learn from the world around them, and I'm part of it.
Mm.
But I'm learning from them,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm getting stuff for myself because of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is all like supposed to happen for my better. So then consequently, they could be better.
Yeah.
So that's for you. It's a perfect example. Like that happened.
Dude, it changed my life having a kid.
It's
like having a kid just like, I feel like, I said this when we had him, it like changes your biology.
Yeah.
Like your makeup. Like
like you were made for that.
Yeah. And just, it betters you in so many ways that you can't even. And I like, if you don't want kids, that's like fine. Like I have a bunch of friends who like don't want kids, and I'm like, great. Like I don't think you should have a kid if you don't want kids.
Yes.
Like it is so hard.
It is hard.
It is so hard.
Yeah.
But if you do want kids and you end up having a kid, that transformation from before you had a kid to after is. Everybody says this, but it's so true. It's just like you just don't even know. You have no idea what it's going to be like.
Yeah. It's the most cliche thing, but it's so true.
It's so true.
It's so true. It changes your life for the better.
Yeah.
It is harder because everything that's harder is better in the long run.
Yeah.
And
most everything.
Yeah. But, it's hard in terms of like progress, right? It's like, oh, I have to work at this to be, so that's kind of like how kids are when it comes to your life.
Yeah.
So, and then, so as cliche as it is, you really become another person.
Yeah.
Like a better version of yourself every single day.
100%.
Every single day.
100%.
And then I think when he has a bigger challenge on top of it, and my wife and I say that all the time, like problems with kids only come for those that are prepared. Or not prepared. They are meant to have those.
Yeah.
Because in most situations with parents, like good parents, right?
Yeah.
Like in your case, like that would not happen with somebody else. That wouldn't be.
I hope
prepared,
that's true. Yeah. Like, that kind of leads into like, do you believe in some like divine, like,
right.
Cause I'm not anymore, but I used to believe in God. I used to be a Christian, and, but no shade to anybody out there who still is or does, but back then, they would say like, God doesn't give you anything that you can't handle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like that he doesn't think you can handle. And that's kind of that, like, is there some greater power at work that you said, like, is going to make sure that, like, the people who have a certain thing, challenges can handle that challenge. And I would like to hope that, like, I have no idea. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know that, like, some of the people that I have met are some of the nicest, strongest people.
It just make you stronger.
It's just they've had to go through, and it's like all of these things that I was talking to a lady in the UK the other day. Here's something crazy: the UK does not include galactosemia on their newborn screening.
Ever?
Does not do it. So
I was have to like ask for it even.
No, you just can't. They don't do it. So I was talking to a mom a couple of weeks ago. Her name is Becca Jones from the UK. She had a kid. I think the kid's like 18 months old now. And her daughter went through trying to get these right. She like started noticing that like wasn't moving a lot. The kid wasn't moving a lot. This is days after she was born.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't moving a lot. Was very jaundiced. They had a doctor come, but they don't do newborn screening. So they had a doctor come over and they do like a wellness check. That's how they do it in the UK, I guess. And they were like, oh, it's probably fine. She looks fine. And then it got so bad that she took her to the hospital, and they were like, oh yeah, this is not normal amount of jaundice. And long story short, the complications of they couldn't figure out what it was, so she stayed on breast milk for too long, which ended up having her develop not only in liver failure, but also, or not failure, but like almost failure for her liver, but also something called a vitreous hemorrhage, which is where the inside of your eye starts bleeding internally.
Oh my God.
And so it requires a surgery, and you see it in older people, and it's not normally
reaction.
It's not normally something that's to do with galactosemia, but in this case, they think that because the way that her blood was thinned out or something like that, because she was on breast milk, because she wasn't able to process the galactose, made her one of her veins in her eyes split, and so she started having this vitreous hemorrhage. All of these complications that could have probably been avoided if they had if they had newborn screening. But in the UK, and this is again back to like all these policies and the way they do things and the standards, they say, well, we don't do that because by the time, if we did newborn screening, like by the time the newborn screening would come back, you would see the effects of galactosemia anyway, so there's no use in doing newborn screening. And that's just not true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just not true. Like, you can do better newborn screening than you're saying you can do.
Can.
Like, newborn screening can be back in days. We do it over here in the U.S.
Yeah.
Like, you just have to invest in the infrastructure to do it. But that's a whole other conversation of investing in infrastructure for a rare disease that affects 1 in 50,000.
That's wild.
It's crazy, man.
That's wild. So let's say you're an adult with it.
Yep.
And you, by mistake, take something, eat
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, have like a glass of milk or whatever.
Yeah. Like, do you have the risk of something happening right then and there, or
as an adult, you'll get a little sick. Usually, depending on how much you ingest, right? Depending on how much you eat or drink, you'll usually get sick and not feel good. You might throw up, but they always say, like, don't freak out. Like, one cookie that has butter in it is not going to like kill you, especially if you're an adult. Like, as an adult, you've kind of, your body has built up these systems to like not send you into liver failure, right? The danger when you're a kid is this consistent exposure every 2 hours to milk and dairy and to like breast milk. Like, that will kill a kid because that's all they're getting, and they're getting it consistently every 2 or 3 hours for days and days and days and days and days and days and days. You don't want to do that. Like, I wouldn't, as an adult, you don't want to just drink a glass of milk every 3 hours. You know, that's not a good idea. But if you have a cookie on accident, or somebody tells you, you know, the server says like, oh yeah, it's dairy free, and then it ends up having some sort of thing in it, you'll probably feel sick. You might throw up, but they always say, like,
don't freak out.
Don't freak out.
It's not like
it
a
happens.
peanut kind of.
It's not an allergy. It's not an allergy.
Yeah,
That's the thing. Which my son also has a peanut allergy.
Does he?
Just crazy. We found that out a couple weeks ago. Not related to the galactosemia at all. Just has a peanut allergy. But it's not an allergy, and that's the difference. And that's what's really hard is you tell somebody, unless you're having this long conversation that I'm having with you right now, right? Like, if I tell somebody he's got this condition, it's like, how do you describe this thing so that they don't think, oh, it's lactose intolerance?
Right.
Because a lot of people, when they say like, oh, he can't have dairy, oh, he's got lactose intolerance.
Yeah, nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Or a dairy allergy.
Right.
But then they give him a dairy thing, and he's like, oh, well, he didn't have any reaction. And it's like, okay.
It's like, no.
You don't understand this. It's a whole. So what I normally say now is I don't even really mention dairy at the start. I say, like, he's got a very rare genetic disease called galactosemia, and it comes with a lot of complications, speech delays, learning delays. One of the biggest things is he cannot have any dairy because his body cannot process it. So it's an ultra rare disease. And so, like, I just don't want to lead with like, yeah, he can't have dairy.
No, because people will be like, oh, he's just gonna.
He's got lactose intolerance.
Yeah,
I was like, he doesn't have lactose intolerance. He doesn't have a dairy allergy. But then it's like, okay, well then what does he have? All right, well, how much time do you have? Your body goes through this metabolic you know.
But now he's 8 months. He's eating now.
He's eating. Yeah.
So he's a bit off of like, he's not having as much.
He's still doing the formula basically just as much. We're about to start kind of we're in that stage right now where you're figuring out like, what is he eating enough to start reducing formula, or is he? And
Yeah,
so
8 months is about that.
yeah.
time.
So he apparently this morning for breakfast he had a whole pear.
Yeah,
He likes pears. So
Do you like pear?
I
My
guess.
kids never liked pear. That was that was the only thing that
Really?
my son, he would eat every single fruit we give him, and we gave him pear once, and he ate the first time,
Uh-huh.
and then the second time he's like, don't like pear.
Really?
Yeah, which is like one of my least favorite fruits too.
Really?
For some reason he didn't.
Pears
like
are so good, dude.
I don't know, they're kind of soft.
Oh, it's a texture thing.
It's a texture.
Okay.
It's definitely a texture.
I understand that. I've got plenty of foods where I'm like, I don't like the texture of
It's
this.
a texture. But yeah, but that eating stage is wild, huh?
Dude, it's so crazy. I mean, I don't even know yet. I'm still so early. You tell
Yeah.
me. It's like
The eating stage is wild.
It seems wild.
Because it's kind of like once they figure it out, it's really easy.
Yeah.
But it takes a while for them to like.
How long do you think it was until you stopped being like, "Are you choking? You choking?" Like every second, like.
I still kind of like worry.
Yeah.
My wife is like doesn't worry that much.
My wife doesn't
But,
worry either.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm
But
so
I was
worried.
the worry. That was the one that like
Yeah.
when we started eating grapes, I'll cut like half vertically and then like anything.
Grapes, like I don't know if I'm ever gonna be able to give him a grape.
Yeah.
Like
I'll literally give them like a bowl, and one by one I'll cut in half vertically.
Yeah.
One by one, just like
Yeah.
because it's like obviously it's the easiest
Yeah.
thing to choke, like.
Oh God.
And then like they love blueberries,
Okay.
and then
Blueberries are a little smaller though, right? Like
small
I feel
and
like
soft, so it's not
Yeah.
that bad. But still, I'll go and
smush 'em?
smush them one by one.
Yeah.
Now, not anymore. She's
you don't
one.
anymore.
She's one, so I don't do it anymore. But the grapes still.
I feel like at one I'm still gonna be like smushing blueberries and stuff. It's crazy.
They learn fast though. They
Yeah?
learn so fast.
Okay.
Like
Take your word for it.
Noah, he's the oldest. He was a little bit. So he was like fast on everything, on a lot of things, and then slow on like speaking. It took him a while to speak.
Mm-hmm.
He would be like quiet for like a long time, and then like maybe 10, almost 1 year, he's like what up,
Interesting.
like the Minion language.
Yeah.
But walking, he walked in 10 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like physical thing, he was fast, but like the speech stuff and
It's so crazy how it's
eating.
just so varied on like what kids do what. I hear about kids that like walked at 10 months, and then my brother had a kid and he's 30, 40, 15 months old, and he's just now starting to walk.
Well, that's the thing. My daughter was 14
Yeah.
months, 14, 15, that she took the first 3 steps.
Wow.
And she didn't crawl until like 10 months.
What was it like having a kid that walked at 10 months?
I didn't know at the time. I was just like, oh, I was like, oh, that's cool. And it was
crazy.
like, and we would take him to the beach almost every day because we used to live like walking to the beach, and he walked like on the sand at 10 months. I was like, oh shit,
That's
like,
insane.
is this normal?
No, not normal.
It wasn't normal. And yeah, and my daughter was like, she's now like 15 months. She just walked like last month.
Oh wow.
So it's very.
Yeah.
It's just like there's no standard,
Right.
Which
It's
is
just everybody's
cool to be
different.
like everybody's different.
Yeah. Kids are
And
all
it's,
different.
yeah, but the eating to me is the wild.
It's
one.
just the scariest thing. It's just and grapes. Do you have any dogs?
no dogs.
Good. Dogs can't have grapes.
They can't have grapes.
Yeah. See, people don't know this. Grapes can kill dogs.
Really, I had no idea.
Yeah. There's something about what they're made up of there's some chemical that's in a grape that it's not all dogs, but it's like not consistent. So if a dog ever eats a grape, you have to take them to the emergency room immediately
Holy shit!
because they can die.
Oh, so
They'll
you're
make
never
'em-
gonna have grapes in the house? You already.
I
knowing
mean,
that?
yeah, I don't know. That's the thing is like, if you can't give it to the kid because they'll throw it on the ground and the dog will
Yes.
eat it.
Oh yeah, my daughter's like 1 in and 2 out.
Yeah.
Like she's like, and she looks at me. She's like, set it on the ground. All right, that's fine. We eat a lot of rice at the house, so she goes by with the hand. and
Really?
Eats half of it and just like when she's done eating, it's like rice everywhere.
Jesus.
There's rice everywhere on the floor, and it's like.
So that's a good reason to get a dog, though. Then you just let
It
the
is.
dog clean
We
it
should
up.
get it. We want to have a dog.
You do?
Yeah.
Would your kids like a dog?
They will love it.
Oh, dude,
They
get
will
one.
love
It's the
it.
best.
Yeah.
Just don't feed it any grapes.
I know. That's good to know. It's like chocolate, but it's like a myth, right? Is chocolate a
Chocolate
myth?
chocolate is listen, it's not advised to give a dog chocolate.
It's not advised to give human chocolate.
It's true. But like I from what I understand, if the dog eats a little bit of chocolate, they're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they shouldn't eat a large amount of chocolate. It could but like a grape is like if your dog is one of the types of dog, it's not or one of is if your dog is the type of dog that like can't have grapes, like a single grape could like
Wow.
kill them, I think.
Holy shit! I had no idea.
I didn't either until what happened? We heard about it somehow, and then Jill was at work one day and someone had dropped grapes on the floor and she didn't notice in the faculty lounge, and Remy was around there and she didn't know if he had eaten a grape or not, but she thought that maybe he did because he was next to them. And this dog eats fucking anything that's on it. He eats cat poop sometimes. Like he just eats anything that he can find.
Yeah.
So she was like, he'd probably definitely ate a grape if he saw one. And so she called the vet and they were like, you got to bring him in immediately. We'll make him throw up. Turns out he didn't eat any grapes, so he was fine.
He just fucking threw up for no
But
reason.
yeah, and then the other couple weeks ago, her mother-in-law, my wife's mother-in-law, didn't know this either, was giving my wife's niece some grapes, and they were watching my wife's brother's golden retriever, and she didn't know about the grape thing, and Wally took a bunch of grapes and ate them, and like we told her, like, because they just happened to be talking on the phone with my wife, and she was like, he can't have grapes, like that will kill a dog. And they called the vet. Sure enough, they were like, bring him in,
Wow.
we got to make him throw up.
How does people not know? I didn't know. I had no idea about this.
No idea either.
That's crazy.
Dogs can't have grapes. Don't give your dogs grapes.
Damn.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Do you guys plan on having another kid?
You know, we've talked about it. I think right now we're in the
I mean,
middle.
It's really early to know.
Yeah,
To think about it.
not only for that, but like for us, if we have a kid, because of the galactosemia stuff, we would have to go to IVF because they can. So galactosemia is let me get this right, something regressive gene, some science term, which basically means both parents have to have it. And the the variant that Elliot has, one of them is from me and one of them's from his mom, and so there's a 25% chance that when you have a kid, for me and Jill, that kid will have galactosemia. So you could risk it, roll the dice. You got 1 in 4 chance that he or she has galactosemia or not, but we would just like to avoid that if possible. So if we do have another kid, we would need to do IVF. That's just the smart thing to do. You know, you give your best kid they could just pick the kid that doesn't have galactosemia.
Right.
And then at that point, I would just pick this gender too. I'd be like, give me a girl.
Yeah.
Give me a girl that doesn't have galactosemia.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, with Elliot's, we don't know how galactosemia is going to present in him yet.
Yeah.
So
It's
if
good
he
to just
ends
kinda
up,
see how it goes.
if he ends up needing a lot of support, you know, when he's 2 and 3 and 4, I don't want to then also have a newborn that I want to focus on that, what he needs.
Right.
So we don't know yet.
Well, it's good to wait until then either way because it's a good gap, you know?
Right. I hear that like 3-4 year gap is good.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we have.
Yeah.
Almost 2 and like 8 months.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's a good gap.
You guys are doing it like we're doing it where you don't have family in town, right?
0. We're
It's
both from Brazil.
It's so hard, right?
Oh my God.
I hear about like, you know, my brother lives in Oklahoma and he's got family near him, and I just, you know, Jill's family is all together on Long Island. And listen, we made the choice to move to Los Angeles, and I would not take it back for $1 million. Like, I love Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I do not regret the decision at all. I would make that choice 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah, same.
It is definitely easier when you have family
It
around
is.
that can take the kid.
But one great thing that I've learned from having a kid is that, like, and I take that approach in everything now. It's like phases, right? Everything's a phase. And that's one thing. So when Noah was born, a good friend of mine, ex-boss, he's very nice, he's wise. He goes, Felipe, when your son is born, make sure you take care of the mother, right? Because it's like no one pays attention to the mother after it's born.
Sure.
And the woman, if you think about it, they get the attention all the time. Like, oh
Yeah.
my God, you just got proposed to.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
engaged.
Yeah.
Oh my God, your wedding.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're pregnant.
Yeah.
The pregnant woman's coming.
Right,
You know, it's
right,
like,
right,
oh,
right.
make way.
Right.
Hold her
right.
hand while she comes down the stairs. You know, open the door for her even more now.
And then they have this kid, and it's like,
and then they
who
have
are
the
you?
kid. It's like, what the fuck are you? Like,
What's
just,
going
oh my
on?
God, the kid. Like,
Kid,
now
kid,
the
kid,
attention is to the kid.
Yeah.
And what women go through, we can never imagine, you
No,
know. And then
yeah.
it's like, and so I was just like, oh, I was very aware of it. And then in that, I saw that like the woman with the kid goes through phases. Like first it's like, oh my God, how crazy is it that it's out of me now?
Mm-hmm.
And then how crazy is it that it needs me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and how crazy is it that like now I've kind of lost my old life, you know? So like, and then we go through that shit, and then it's like,
dude.
so the one thing that I've learned is like phases, right?
Yeah,
all
yeah.
these phases that
Yeah.
like it's just our life is
Yeah.
just made out of a bunch
Yeah.
of phases.
The hard thing is to have the perspective to know like what phase you're in now and when it's gonna end.
Yes, because
It's
you
like-
think it's never gonna end.
Yeah, and you're like, I can tell that I'm in a phase right now, but I don't really know what phase it is or where. Or like it's really hard. Oh, this is a phase, okay, but like when's it gonna end? And it's like it goes on forever.
Yeah,
Or some are shorter,
yeah,
some are longer.
yeah, exactly that.
You know.
Yeah, and so when starts, I think the phases now, in my experience, are getting like longer and easier.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, now it's like they're in a phase that they both sleep well.
Yeah.
And now they're in a phase where they like play with each other.
Yeah.
Now it can be like
That's cool.
they play in their room together
Yeah.
for like an hour.
You guys have like an hour to yourselves. It's
Yeah.
like, what?
And so not having a family it has been really hard.
Yeah.
Because it's like Bruna and I were just talking about like, man, like all I wanted to do is like have a 3-hour date with you
Yeah.
where we could go get some
Totally.
wine and get some dinner
Totally.
and like know that the kids are well taken care of, like their grandparents or whoever. And we just don't have that.
Nope.
We don't have that.
Yet.
Like we don't yet. And so we know it's like yet.
Yeah.
And then the way we think is like, okay, so now we have to enjoy this because we're only gonna have 2.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna have this baby phase anymore.
Right.
It's
Right.
over after.
Right.
You know, like this time that she just comes to me like wobbling
Yeah.
like this,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
her hands up, or when I come into the house and she's like, she screams from top of her lungs like, guys, comes at me, he's like crying, so I can just
Yeah.
pick her up.
Yeah.
Like that phase is gonna be over.
Yeah.
So we just learned to not focus on like, oh, we want to have dates. Like, okay, we'll have a million dates.
Yeah.
When they're like,
You gotta enjoy the kids.
now it's time to enjoy this phase.
Yeah.
So when he broke it down to me by phases, it was a lot easier to like deal with it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, I ran the LA Marathon.
You did?
Yeah.
Holy shit!
did.
Congrats, dude.
I
I
was
didn't know
like-
that.
I was like, what can I do in 2025
Jesus.
that I would think that I would never be able
Did you
to do?
train for it?
I did train for 2 months.
2 months.
And it's not recommended for 2 months because you get hurt, which I did 2 weeks before.
What was your time?
4 hours and 15 minutes.
Still.
2 weeks before I got hurt, like because you're not supposed to train.
Yeah,
you're gonna get
you're doing too much.
too many miles
Yeah.
under you in a short period.
Yeah.
You know, and like 2 weeks before, I couldn't fucking run from here to like the outside, and I didn't run for 2 weeks. And I was like, I'm just gonna go to the day of the marathon. I did massages. I went to a physiotherapist. I did all these things. I did acupuncture. I did everything, and then I went to I'm just gonna do it because I train and I feel like I'm ready, whatever, and I'm just gonna try to run as much as possible. And then for some reason, dude, the day before, I'm having dinner, like preparing, like eating the right thing, and then like Noah ran and I ran after him and I couldn't run. The night before, and I was like literally so sad. I was like, this is not happening, and I can't believe it. You know, it's like I was so looking forward to it, and then I got there the day of like 3 hours before. The race started like at 7. I got there like 4 a.m. Like just stretching, and then didn't think of anything else. Didn't look at my phone for 3 hours, stretching, walking around, peed, stretching, walked around, peed, drank water, you know, and started running, and it was just like the pain almost was not there. It was just like my knee was bothering me, but it wasn't. It was something I could like sustain. You know? So I ran the whole thing, completed.
Jeez.
But the way I broke it down, like as I was running, it was like, this is just phases of running. Let me do 5K. I will do 5K. I'm like, oh, cool. The 5K didn't hurt that much.
Yeah.
All right, I'll do 10 now. Let's do 10K. Don't worry about the 5K that you did.
3
Don't
miles
worry
at a
about the
time.
other 30K after that.
Jesus.
It's like, do 10K. And then I'll just do 10K. I'm like, okay, now you can
Wow.
speed up maybe for 5.
Yeah.
And I tried to speed up, and it was like, okay, hurting. I was like, okay, don't speed up.
Yeah.
And then like my knee started hurting, and then by the time I was calculating, I was like, oh, I ran 25K.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let's just get to 30. And then 30 to 42 is 42 kilometers.
Yeah.
Because to me, kilometers make more sense. So I broke it by kilometers instead of miles.
Yeah.
And miles are too long. 1 mile is too long.
It's true.
And then when I got to 32, I was like, okay, now just finish it. And that was hard because I lost my train of thought of phases.
Oh, right.
I
Because you were just like, I just got to get through the rest of it. That's
Instead,
so
I should have
much.
broken it down. So that kind of translated to me of like how I'm dealing with a lot of stuff like after having kids, just phases.
Just
you know,
phases.
Like,
Yeah, I look back at pictures of Elliot when he was a baby so much.
Yeah.
Like just like, when they're like this big.
It's small and
It's
just like
so crazy, and I remember those times of being like, it's so wild, like this little human, and now your kid has personality and like all this stuff.
And you're getting to know each other. It's not you just
right.
You're just learning how to be a father and everything. You're just learning. You're just meeting this new person.
Yeah. You're meeting a new person.
You're meeting a new person.
Meeting a brand new
You're learning
person.
about him, what he likes, what he doesn't like.
And he's learning what he likes and doesn't like.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny too, because like we're talking like this, and if anyone ever listens to this and they're like, have kids that are like 12, 15, 18, 20, it's like, oh, just wait.
Yeah, just wait.
Just wait. It gets real crazy. And I know it does, but it is so, you hear it when you have a kid, you hear it so much, like, oh, enjoy it. It goes by so fast.
It is true.
And it's true. And so like, I really try to like enjoy every moment. He's in New York with his mom right now. I make sure like FaceTime him like twice a day.
Yeah.
Like as much as we can, like say hello. And he always smiles when he sees me on the phone, and it's like the best,
I saw a thing from Bill Burr. It was like, he's recently had a kid, I think, like a year ago, whatever. Okay. He was just like talking about how like people go, oh, he's 8 months. Oh, wait until he's 3. Then it gets super stupid. It gets so hard. And he's like, maybe it doesn't. Maybe you're just shitty parents. Have you thought about that?
Maybe it's great. Yeah. You're just not good at this.
Yeah. I mean, it's just hard. Just because it's hard doesn't mean it's not good.
Yeah. Right.
It's just hard.
That's the thing. Is like, just because it's hard doesn't mean it sucks.
Yes.
Like, it is still awesome. It is hard.
Yeah.
Yes. It is awesome.
But imagine if it wasn't hard. Like the amount of love with not hard, you just lose it.
Totally.
Like you just lose it. How
you wouldn't have any perspective.
Yeah, like I'm sure you experience this where you just sometimes you're like, I can't even explain what I'm feeling.
In
like
which
it's
way?
just how much love.
Okay, yeah. Because I've also experienced it the other way, where it's 3 a.m. and he's 6 weeks old and will not stop screaming, and
you just want to cry.
Nobody has any sleep, and you're like, if you don't shut up.
Yeah.
But then I
gotta wake up in 2 hours.
Yeah. But the other way is also true, where it's like the amount of love. I put him to bed every night, and I've done that his entire, life, his 8 months, and until he went to New York. But there's this moment after he has his last bottle, before he goes to sleep, where I'm like burping him, and like we're hanging out, and he like gets in this like fun, playful mood.
Yeah, that's cool.
And he'll like put his hand on my face, and he's like laughing, and it's the best moment.
Yeah.
It's the best moment of my day.
Yeah.
Every single day, those like 5 minutes where he's just like, "Hey, Dad, what's up? I'm gonna go to bed soon, but like, how you doing?" And it's just like we'll talk, and like I'll just like bye bye bye. It's just like it's the best.
It's the best. It's
the best.
My daughter now started hugging me tight. So like. She wakes up sometimes.
Yeah.
Like she goes to bed like 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Between 7 and 8. And she usually sleeps until like 12, and she wakes up.
Oh, really?
Like really short
time.
She
put herself back to sleep?
that's the time I like going.
Okay.
So I go and get her,
Sure.
and that time is the best.
Yeah.
Because I pick her up, and she's almost expecting me to pick her up. She's not crying. She's just sitting on her
Yeah.
crib, and then she just puts her hands up, and I pick it up. She just like comes here and it just fits perfect, and she just like hugs me.
Yeah. Oh,
Her hands goes like this, like grabbing my shirt,
totally.
and I'm like, oh my, like this
Totally.
is my time.
I remember he doesn't like hold tightly like she does to me yet because he just doesn't know. But I remember the first time he like kind of put his arms around just like as a reflex, as a natural thing, and I was like,
yeah, you remember those things,
man, this is like the coolest thing in the world. And like, so I can imagine like once you know that they know, they're like holding on to you.
Right.
That feeling
That's
is just got to be.
Sometimes I heard somebody say this once, and it just stuck with me. It's like when you're about to have a kid, you've gone through all the worst shit already in some type of form.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've gone to work with
Right.
3 hours of sleep.
Yeah. You've gotten no
hungover
sleep
or whatever.
before.
Or
Yeah.
or
Totally.
you've pulled all-nighters before.
Yeah. You've gone through the hard stuff.
You've gone through your hard stuff,
but you've never
but
experienced
nothing prepared you
nothing.
for the good experience.
Yeah, it's true. I saw a TikTok like that.
Yeah.
And it's true. Like, you know what the hardest shit feels like.
Right.
Because you have gone on no sleep and you have wanted to like blow your brains out before.
Yeah.
But you have never, I guarantee you, even if you think you have never felt what you will feel when you have a kid.
Right.
And it's the craziest thing. Like, I'm pretty open about this, but like my dad is a shitty dad. Like he was gone my entire life. We don't have a really good relationship, and I look back after I have a kid now, and I'm like, how in the world?
I know, it's wild, huh?
Like, could you not want to be there as a dad?
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's some people, and that's what you said earlier. If some people don't want to have kids,
don't have kids.
Don't have kids.
Don't have kids.
And it's totally fine.
Totally
it's not
fine.
for everybody.
No
but
judgment.
If you have any type of want,
you'll
see how wonderful it is.
Yep.
Like you will see how crazy.
But I do think like you
have to have
some. You have to be open to it at least.
You have to like have some type of like I want to have a kid.
Yeah.
Not just like maybe. No, it's just like or maybe it's fine. But like
I
if
think
you want to be like
fine.
no, I don't want.
You can't be like no.
No.
You can't be like, I have a friend who's like, we're not having kids. It's like, don't have kids.
Yeah, no.
Don't.
Especially if you have like, and also to me, I see how important it's been to have with my wife.
Yeah.
Like we together,
totally.
like is not that like separated parents is bad. It's just
having
with the wrong person.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot. I imagine it'll make it a lot harder.
Yeah.
Like if you just have it with the wrong, that you guys are not connected
Right.
in the same kind of thinking.
Right.
It's like because your patience now, especially in this first months, are so short. Her patience is so short. So sometimes I'm like, like I need some time by myself.
Yeah.
It's like
you got to be able to communicate, and you got to be able to be there for her in that way too, because she's gonna need times where it's like, I need.
Yeah.
I remember I had one moment where he must have been 6-7 weeks old, and like, I was giving him a bottle. I was trying to calm him down. He was like not having it. He was screaming for like 30 minutes straight. And when he was young, that kid was the loudest. He was louder than I can scream right now.
Oh, for sure.
He was so loud when he was upset. And he had been going on for like 25, 30 minutes. I was in the kitchen with him. I remember Jill came in and I held him out and I said, if you don't take this baby, I'm going to throw him. And I would never throw him against the wall. I would never throw him. But that's how I felt.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt.
And I needed her to be there to be like, give me him, go lay down.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
And I had to be that for her. Sometimes she never said anything that stupid.
Yeah.
But like the level that you have to be there for your partner and be in tune with them.
Yeah.
And understand and be able to be there and offset each other is like, you really like, my mom was a single mom. I don't know how single parents do it. Champions. Crazy.
It's wild. It's a wild experience. And if you have like all these things, it's still going to be very hard.
Yeah.
It's still going to be very hard.
Dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this podcast just became about kids.
I love it. I love it. I love like, man, like that's the thing about this. I just love talking to people like you. Like we could talk for hours.
Oh, yeah.
So I appreciate you having me at your house, man.
Dude, I appreciate you coming over, and it was much easier to do it here than in Redondo, so I'm actually glad the place closed down.
Yeah, we were supposed to do it in the studio, closed down.
Yeah.
So we did it here in
It is
your
no
studio.
more. Yeah, you got to go to people's houses from now on.
I'm down.
This is how
Yeah.
you
It's
do
a
it.
lot easier. Come on. Everybody's comfortable.
It's the best. It's the best. You got a little camera set up. All good to go.
Yeah. Well, thank you, man.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I
dude.
appreciate it.
Of course.
We'll do another one.
Anytime.
Yes.
Well, I say anytime, but it's
not
it
really
works,
anytime.
It works now well because my wife is gone and my kid is gone. But
Yeah, I didn't know they were gone. I was like, whoa, like
oh, dude.
they're probably gonna be. We're gonna have to take a couple breaks.
I know. I miss them so much, but it's also the best week ever.
Yeah,
So.
because now you can watch movies. It's just like, yeah.
I'm gonna build a table on in my shed. It's gonna be awesome.
Yes.
So, cool.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you
dude.
very much, man.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.